Profit charity Farm2Table. With a mission to feed and serve people without judgment, he's dedicated his time and energy to growing wholesome, organic fruits and vegetables to feed families and individuals in need. Farm2Table has recently been honored by the Bologna Chamber of Commerce as a 2022 Nonprofit of the Year. It's also been nominated in the People's Choice category through Arkansas Heritage in the 2022 Arkansas Food Hall of Fame. Our speaker's commitment and enthusiasm for Farm2Table is contagious, and if you haven't been out to visit his gardens, I encourage you to pay a visit. So, Master Gardeners, please join me in welcoming Mr. Patrick Colb.
How y'all doing? Good. Farm2Table Project, give you a little bit of information, history of it. Farm2Table Project was started in 2020, March 27th, the ground was broken in 2020, and it was right before the pandemic hit. And it was to give our nonprofit, Hatchett's Chicken Ranch, another option, way to feed people in need. We grow completely 100% organic, from seed to harvest. When we first started it, we were growing directly in the ground, and it failed miserably. Then around July, we went with the no-till concept, where we brought in all the super soil, all the mulch. About 98 cubic yards was used on the property to be able to plant into, and then it was successful after that. This last fall, we opened up the dedicated expansion for 8 nonprofits in the Conway area. We'll be growing their foods organically to supply them the fresh vegetables and fruits. We got Soul Food Cafe Mission, the Bethlehem House, Coho, Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance, Food Justice out of Little Rock, which feeds the homeless people, homeless veterans. We got Conway Ministry and the Farm to School program that we've started up. We're growing all the vegetables right now in the ground. Before school lets out, all of them will be supplied with organic and all vegetables. But just to give you a little bit, here's some information. Yeah, it's we can have a little block of things. Yeah, there we go. Here's a little bit of information on us, of who we are and what we do. We are a 501c3 nonprofit charity that gives people in need access to fresh, organically grown foods, free of charge. We don't charge anything for any of this that we grow. We are 100% organic from seed to harvest. We belong to the Soil Food Network. We're the first priority of what we do. We feed the soil. We don't feed the plants. We do that by microbes, bacterias, and all the nutrients for the microbes to basically expand to be able to produce to the plants the nutrition the plant needs instead of directly fertilizing it. It'll release all the calcium, the magnesium, the potassiums, all that stuff out of the soil to feed the plants. We've added a dedicated expansion, like I said earlier, for 8 nonprofits. We are partnered with the Farm to School program that will give the kids organically grown foods, the healthiest choice possible. We grow 82 different kinds of varieties of vegetables. 82 different varieties of vegetables and fruits, from spring all the way through winter. We've added the high tunnels, the greenhouses to be able to grow through wintertime. That will kick in this fall. We do the microgreens, we do the gourmet mushrooms, we do 9 different varieties of herbs down at the farm, and we also do the honey from our 6 hives that we have down at the farm. the produce that we grow is nutrient dense. It has to be nutrient dense. We just don't grow anything. These are specific kinds of varieties that our sponsor, Johnny Seeds, gives us to be able to grow this. You won't find any other nutrient dense foods than what we're growing up there on the farm. And of course, like I said earlier, we're 98% no-till. The reason why I say that is we broke the ground, and all by plowing in the virgin ground. We exposed the dirt to be able to inoculate the soil, so we can start the microbial process of the soil. Our soil up there is really bad. There is no nutrients in the soil. It's all rock, clay, and sand. It's really bad to grow in. So this is the reason why we do what we do. It's all plant-based, the super soil. There's no animal product in this super soil. So it's all plant-based. What we use in microbial inoculation of the soils is agrothrive and Rev. Rev is a growth stimulant for the plants, and the agrothrive is what actually feeds the soil itself. The soil food web regenerative practices is our number one priority. Without that, we wouldn't get the food that we're growing at an abundance that we grow where we're at right now. Insect pressure is controlled by BT. I'm sure you all know what BT is. And spinosad. Also, we use the neem oil. We also use Pygenic and Azera, which is all organic products, to fight off these insect pressures. Like last year, we had our biggest insect pressure was all the squash bugs. That was our biggest, and y'all probably realized that last year. Once we got that under control, the aphids came in and they hit us pretty hard last year, so we took care of that. If any of this does not work, what we do, we use our last resort by burning the crops down. So it'll get rid of any kind of a problem, because the squash bugs, for instance, will overwinter in the soil and around debris and all that, and you'll have a bigger problem next year with it. So we try to avoid all means possible, because we're there to grow food for people, not really for the insects. But the disease pressure control that we use copper, we use horticulture spray, we use 70% neem. We also use baking soda on there for any of the powdery mildew. It's excellent to use. It really does work fantastically. And of course the well water, it's all unfiltered. We don't filter anything, so we want all the nutrition we can get out of this well to feed these plants. Weed pressure control, of course, is all done by mulching and top dressing, crowding, no-till, solarization, flaming, and salting only on asparagus. Asparagus is very, very salt tolerant. You can douse that whole area with salt and it won't even affect your asparagus. But it does affect weeds pretty good. The whole farm is right at about 2 acres. Last year, we produced on the first side of the farm, we produced about 128 bushels of food that went out to feed people. With the expansion of this year, we're looking at 300 to 350 bushels of food with the expansion and feeding over 1,000 people. With that expansion, if not more, hopefully it'll be more. We grow on an acre that includes the eight dedicated organizations. The dedicated expansion includes the strawberry rows, the muscadine rows, the blueberry rows, the vegetable rows, the 2020 blocks, the grow out high tunnels, and all for the winter growing. The dedicated organizations that we do feed, like I said earlier, is Soul Food Cafe Mission, Conway Ministry, Bethlehem House, CAPCO, Coho, Food Justice United, Farm to School, and Arkansas Hunger Relief Alliance. The projected families fed through this expansion will exceed 1,500 people on the expansion. And that's all the information I got on my little PowerPoint, but that's about what we do. Organic is the only way to go. It is seriously the only way to go. The plants will produce so much food, so much food. The soil food web, how that works is that you have the carbon, the CO2 in the air. The soil is what actually brings your carbon out, brings the CO2 down, feeds the plant through that process, and then the plant expels the oxygen, which you all know. That is the easiest way and the most free way of lowering your CO2 levels that everybody's complaining about, of global warming and all that. If you let Mother Nature take care of it, she will take care of it. If we intervene with what she does, then it's a failure every single time. We realize that our very first year. That's about it. All we do, we feed and serve with no judgment. That's our number one thing. My parents raised me and my brother to feed the poor through the church. So yeah, it's very, very satisfying what we do. So, if anybody's got any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
All the food you produce, how do you get it to the various organizations? Do they pick it up? Do you deliver?
Okay, yeah. How we get the food to, people through those organizations, we'll deliver it.
Okay.
When we harvest that morning, it'll go out immediately to these organizations. That way they get the freshest possible.
You may have already said this, but where are you located?
In Holland, Arkansas, yeah. Yes.
You mentioned on your slideshow about solarization.
Yes, sir.
Will you talk a little bit more about that for us?
Yeah, the solarization, the whole process of that is all done with tarps. What you're doing is you're trying to block out that light, and you're trying to cause the heat to build up underneath the tarps. So the darkness and the heat, it'll kill the weeds, roots, and everything, plus the seeds that it's already laid. It will destroy it. It takes about 4 to 5 months for the process to happen. So yeah, it's very easy, but it's really, it takes a while.
Do you find it works better any time of the year, or is there a specific time of the year it works best?
Certain times of year it works better on the solarization. Usually about spring and the middle of summer, because the hotter you can get it, the better off you'll be with that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Flaming is where you burn the plants down with the torch, and all the propane torch. It's a way you burn the plants down on the flaming.
How do you prepare the soil for the next crop?
How do we prepare it?
After you harvest the crop, how do you do that?
We top dress it. We bring in the new super soil and we'll top dress it 1 inch to 2 inches.
How about the old plants?
The old plants, we cut the plants that, when you like lettuce, in all for instance, you'll harvest the head out, and then the root base itself, it'll stay in the ground, and then your next crop you'll plant between what you planted before. Now by the time that's ready to be harvested, the prior crop will already be, basically gone. The roots will be ate up and everything. It keeps feeding the soil, is what it does, those roots. Even when you take the plant away from it, it still keeps feeding the soil.
Where do you get
Yes.
your super soil?
American Composting out of Little Rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all the questions?
Is your place a public platform, or do you just service them?
Oh, we don't turn anybody away. So it could be people in need. It could be anybody. We don't.
Only the donations, so I'm asking.
Oh, a donation? It can be done there, or it can be done on the website. Yeah, there's the website right there.
Well, I think you had some cards.
Yes,
also.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
so did we put cards on it up there?
I put them back there on that table.
Yes, sir.
If anyone wants to pick up a card.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do allow visitors.
We're about to Holland, is located.
When you go through Holland, well, if you're coming from Holland, go to 8 Mile Store. It's the easiest way to do it. You go to 8 Mile Store, go down 36, and go to 287. It goes into Holland. And you'll go on down that highway, and you go up the hill. You'll have Akron Gap on your left, and the very next road is Jackson Road on your right. And you'll make a right there, and go down Jackson Road, very first road on your left. You'll make a left there, and you'll see the old pickup truck right there at the entrance on the right-hand side.
Now, they have to go through Holland before you get to Holland.
It'll be before you get to Holland, not before the cemetery.
Have you considered getting into meat?
Excuse me?
Have you considered getting into meat?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yep, definitely. This, we have a phase 3, that we're planning out. It's gonna take a lot more than what we're doing right now. But, it's gonna be able to produce an all grass-fed beef, well, the pork, and all the hogs, your pork, it'll all be organically fed. Then of course chickens. I mean, we do chickens ourselves. And, so yeah, that's all gonna be part of phase 3. You know, we're on phase 2 right now with the dedicated expansion. But, phase 3 is gonna be probably 2 to 3 times bigger than what these 2 phases have been.
Another question.
Yes.
My niece is working with 4-H, and they said their project was a food, same thing, food to table project, Farm2Table Project.
Yes, sir.
Is that connected to you, or?
No, sir, no, it's not connected to us.
Food-to-Table Project is worldwide, is that just a new organization?
No, our Farm2Table Project's it's all part of our nonprofit altogether. Farm2Table Project has its own nonprofit identity. Also, Hastings Chicken Ranch, which is the main nonprofit that started everything, it has its own identity too. It's its own 501c3.
4-H,
No, but we will be starting up the summer internship program, this summer down at the farm. And we're working with the schools right now to get them to include their hours as credits for FFA and AGRI, for Valonia and Greenbrier.
Question from Zoom.
Okay.
How many people are involved in the planting, growing, etc.? How many are volunteer and how many are staff?
How many are involved in the growing and planting?
Growing, how many are volunteers and how many are staff?
How many volunteers and how many staff? I've got 1 employee, which is Josh. And then we've got volunteers. We do the community service outreach program where community service people come in and they do their hours there as volunteers. And we also take in any kind of volunteers that want to come up and help.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You may have said this and I couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Where do you get your funding to do all this? Do you get any government?
No, ma'am. It's all done through donations. We've been, and I'll be honest with you, we've been very, very blessed of what we're able to do. And we've given, actually how it started is our whole life savings went into this. We're not moving this thing forward. It's moving on its own. Everything gets answered when we ask. We really don't ask anybody for donations. We do a little bit of fundraising here and there, but besides that, it's basically driven a lot harder than what we can drive.